Hello, everyone. Welcome to Conversations with Sekani, a podcast for people in their 20s who are trying to figure out life and not get lost along the way. Today's conversation is all about money, decision making, and how young people can take control of their financial future without feeling overwhelmed. I'm joined by Vinod Lakhani, the founder of WeLeap, an AI powered financial sidekick designed to help young professionals make smarter money decisions, one simple step at a time. Instead of confusing dashboards and endless advice, Leap focuses on one clear action where he calls a leap to help you move forward financially. Vinod, welcome to Conversations with Sekani. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Sekani. Really happy to be here.
Okay, so yeah, I want us to dive into your 20s a little bit, right? So take us back to your 20s. What was your relationship with money like at that stage of your life?
Yeah, so just I had an interesting background. I thought that'll be relevant to this. So I was born in Kenya in Africa. I grew up in India. I came to the United States to study when I was 17 years old, and I graduated at 21. So my relationship with money really started while I was in college because I was struggling financially, as you can imagine, many international students do. So it was all about, saving every penny and figuring out how to pay for my college experience. When I graduated at 21, I started a new job. It was the first time I had a real paycheck. It was my first experience with real money. And that's where I feel a lot of the challenges started because you kind of don't know what to do. You don't know what you don't know. You feel lost. As you talk to people about finances, not knowing about finances, sometimes you feel embarrassed. So there's a lot of mixed emotions. And there's a lot of fear mixed into this as well because it's a fear of missing out on things. It's a fear of not understanding things. It's a fear of approaching people. Finances just seemed very intimidating at that stage in life. So definitely a mix of emotions that I went through at that point.
Hmm. Okay, wow. All right. And it's funny because that emotions you went through is what we are currently going through right now. So we need your
Yeah.
guidance, actually. We need your guidance. Okay. So what were some habits you built in your 20s that ended up having like a long-term impact on your financial life?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think there's a few things. One was to start contributing to retirement as early as possible. And I think it's one of those things I feel that it's very easy to procrastinate because, when you're in your 20s, it's hard to imagine planning for something in your 60s, right? Retirement age. So what I felt was it was an easy thing to skip or to delay and procrastinate. And actually I was lucky I didn't do that. And part of the reason was because I worked at employers that offered a 401k, a retirement tool that things would get contributed automatically. So it was almost like, contribute and forget. And I feel that that was, now that I'm actually 56, now that I look at it and I'm getting close to retirement, I was very happy I did that because those
Mm.
contributions, they compound over time. And when it's automatically coming out of your paycheck before it sits in your account, you don't think about it as much, but over time it grows and compounds really fast.
Okay, wow, that's interesting. I think I might have to adopt that one, actually. All right. So yeah, I want us to do like a deep dive, right? So you created WeLeap to simplify financial decisions. What problem were you seeing that actually needed solving?
Yeah. So actually the genesis of the company, I have three daughters who are Gen Z. And as my oldest daughter was entering the workforce, she started asking a lot of questions, questions like, well, here's my offer letter. What is my take-home pay gonna look like? Questions like how much should I be saving? What type of retirement should I contribute to? So she was very knowledgeable, but I felt like she was asking some very important questions. And that
Mm,
set off my journey to discover, well, what tools are out there for young adults. And what I saw surprised me. So number one was, a typical young adult, they're juggling 4 to 6 financial apps. So be it your credit card app, your banking app, it could be a loan app, it could be an investing app, it could
mm,
be, an advising app. So they're juggling multiple apps, and but none of them really understand the full financial picture of the user. And the
mm,
second thing I noticed was those apps are very much driven towards their own products. So, for
mm,
example, if you are a bank, you're really interested in having the user leave their assets in the bank. If you're a
mm,
credit card company, you're actually happy if the user has a credit card balance and is paying interest. If you're an investment app, you actually want the users to transact a lot. Now,
mm,
all of those incentives may not necessarily align with what's in the best interest of the user. So, in some
mm.
cases, if there's money sitting in a checking account, you may be better off by paying off that credit card balance. But these siloed applications don't necessarily point those things out. The third observation I had was that a lot of apps that were, advising and providing products, they were actually earning referral fees and commissions. So their advice was biased based on the products they were trying to sell you. So all in all, I felt that, users are overwhelmed with using multiple apps. They are inundated with data. But I didn't feel that there was anybody or any app that was looking out for their best interest and was aligned with their interest. So those are the problems that I saw. And that's really what led me to start WeLeap was how do we address some of those systematic issues that I was seeing with the current set of tools.
Oh, okay, wow. All right. You said you noticed some things which were included lots of app, and most of those apps were like earning through commissions, and yeah, it made it bias, right? So now
You're right.
talking about WeLeap, what makes WeLeap different, and what does WeLeap actually do in like respect
Mm.
to finance?
Yeah. So think of us as we're not a product company. Think of us as a decision layer that sits above your products. And what the decision layer does is that it understands your finances, it sees your full financial picture, it knows you as a user, it understands your goals, what you're trying to achieve, and it really figures out what's the best financial move you should make at this moment that'll have the biggest impact.
Mm,
And that's how we're starting. Over time, we'll help you execute that financial move as well. We call that financial move the leap. And really, the focus for us is it's kind of based on my financial experience, which is that, financial success is not is not, placing big bets. It's actually betting on small, well-timed moves that compound over time. So that's really my philosophy, and that's what we're trying to bring to WeLeap. So in a sense, think of us as your financial sidekick, and we're there, we're surfacing actions and steps you should take when they matter. So for example, when you start a new job, it would surface a leap that you should contribute to your 401k. If you have a health savings account, it'll prioritize that. If you are carrying high interest debt, it may point out that why don't we move $50 from your savings into paying off your high credit card debt? So it's really
mm.
focused on understanding you, being situational, and really pointing out those small steps that you need to take in order to improve your financial health.
Wow. Okay, wow, that sounds interesting actually because this is a app that actually now really understand our financial capabilities. Unlike other apps where they just want to take from us, like you said, right? They're just after their own um pockets, right? But this one actually understands our finance and tries to even make it better. which is interesting, honestly. And yeah, I was gonna ask, right? How does Willip use AI differently compared to like, the traditional financial tools? How those
Hmm.
ones use their own AI?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think there's a few things. One is, we feed AI with what we call the financial stack, and that financial stack really is a priority of focus areas. So an important priority would be you got to stabilize your finances, which means that you should have a cash cushion, what we call an emergency fund. We would prioritize, taking advantage of employer 401k match. We would prioritize things like paying off your high interest debt. If you qualify, we would prioritize contributing to a Roth IRA, for example. So we have our own prioritization of areas that we think are important to our target customer. So we kind of have that as the overarching uh, guiding light that we guide the AI through. So really, the AI is used to understand the user, understand their needs, their goals, but then to we put guardrails around it, we put guidelines around it that we guide the AI in terms of the types of advice and what it does for you. So that's sort of our initial phase. I think our second phase is going to be as the AI learns user behavior better, it understands, for example, typically what uh, a Gen Z is doing. It can actually start learning best practices, and it can actually guide the users based on that. So we're starting simple. We're starting with strong guardrails, and then over time, as we learn and understand user behavior better, we can draw on better insights as we go forward.
Okay, all right. Yes, thank you so much for that one. Actually, I think you're doing amazing with Willip, and I really hope the best for Willip. Honestly, I believe it's going to go global, right? Because it's doing amazing work for people, especially young adults. And yes, so for someone listening right now who feels overwhelmed about money, what's the first practical step they can take today to feel better, actually?
Yeah, so I think number one is really take a long-term view because very small steps can matter a lot. So sometimes, you think about, I don't care, I don't want to, saving $20, $50 doesn't
Mm,
matter. But when you actually look at it and you compound it over time, those 20, $50 contributions grow to tens of thousands of dollars. So I think
mm,
it's really important to, take a step back, not get overwhelmed by saying, how am I going to save for buying a house or, any other big expense you have coming up, but break it down into these small chunks of saying, okay, well, what if I can just save $50 a month? Well, what will that grow to? And kind of when you start thinking about it, you start realizing that time is on your side. Take advantage of it. Let compounding do the work for you. And if you are just disciplined about these small things, it'll add up and make a big difference.
okay, all right. Thank you so much for that one. And yes, this moves me to like the lessons you've learned and growth basically. So, what key mindset shift has helped you go from just earning money to actually building wealth?
Yeah, I think the mindset shift in my mind is starting to think longer term.
Mm,
And what I mean by that is not focusing on short-term gains and losses, but thinking of the future in horizons that are 10 years, etc. And what that
mm,
lets you do is it lets you take out the noise of short-term issues like, hey, the market is uncertain today, there's wars happening, there's, a conflict, etc. But if you drown out that and just take a long-term view, that mindset shift had really helped me a lot.
mm. Okay, all right, thank you. And yes, I'm curious, right? What are you currently building or trying to or improving with WeLoop that excites you the most? And looking ahead, what's your bigger vision for how tools like WeLoop can change the way young people approach money?
Yeah, so I think what honestly excites me is that, we have a tremendous convergence of factors as we go forward. Number one is the fintech industry is maturing. We actually have now the ability to get access to user data with user consent, of course. Technologies like AI are maturing, and you actually have a generation that is digital first. So they're willing to try these new technologies and give it a shot. In fact, they prefer that to talking to, a traditional financial advisor, etc. So that excites me. I think the opportunity is great in front of us for rethinking personal finances. So I think that's exciting for me. If you ask me, my long-term vision is actually, can we become an open platform where people can come in and offer products and services on the platform, and your sidekick can parse those and decide and advise you as to what would be the best product for you. So for example, let's say if you're a freelancer and you have
Mm,
income that's very uncertain, very bursty, imagine if people can target products, loans, credit cards, etc., that are targeted for freelancers, offered on the platform. And without you looking for it, your sidekick can be listening on the platform and can bring those to you that would be to your benefit. So I think long term, the idea for me is, how do we build a platform where people can innovate, can bring in products and services, and really serve the user best? So our focus is, can we build the sidekick that works for you, that does the best
mm.
that it can for your benefit?
All right. Well, okay. That's interesting, actually. And yes, it brings me to the final question for my podcast today. Because like my podcast it's for young adults, right, who are seeking to gain clarity and clarity in cases like this when it comes to finance. Right. So if you could give one honest piece of advice to someone in their 20s who feels lost or stressed about money, what would it be?
I would say number one is like I mentioned, thinking longer term, don't not to think short term. I
Mm,
think it's also understanding the impact of things you're spending today on what that means long term. So, for example, that extra subscription that you have, if you're looking to rent a place, how much rent you pay, etc. Those are expenses that you cannot avoid, but what you can do is to think about saying, if I have to choose a rent of X versus Y, what does that delta mean to me long term in terms of my financial health? Just sort of thinking along those lines will really help you prioritize and think about saying, how do I look to the future as opposed to what do I need to do today?
mm. So basically, it's thinking long term actually in any decisions you're making. And there was one you said earlier, which makes me remember the book Atomic Habits, right? Try making
Right.
small steps, and those small savings, those things they could eventually just help out later in the future. So yes, that one too. And yes, thank you so much, Vinod. This has been amazing. I feel like I've learned so much already. And I hope my listeners would also learn from this episode also. And yes, it brings me to the final segment of my podcast. It's called the rapid fire segment.
Sounds good.
Okay, so yeah, starting now. One money habit everyone in their 20s should build.
Don't carry credit card debt.
Hmm, okay. A financial mistake to avoid early.
Not saving.
Hmm. Wow. Okay. Save or invest, which first?
Start with savings because eventually you will invest.
Okay. All right. One mindset shift about money.
Think long term.
Clinton, exactly. And finally, one word that defines financial freedom.
Knowledge.
Knowledge. Okay. All right, Vinod, thank you. And where can listeners get to, know more about you, your work, and Willy?
Yeah, thank you, Sekani. It's been a real pleasure. I would love for people to come visit us on our website at www.weleap.ai, and also happy to connect with people on my LinkedIn, Vinod Lakhani.
Okay. All right. So yes, thank you so much, Vinod. I feel like conversations like this are very important because they are eye-opening and they're also practical, especially for young adults who are trying to control their finance and make smarter decisions one step at a time. Okay, so yeah, to my listeners, thanks for tuning in to Conversations with Sekani. This episode sparked something in you. Make sure to share to someone you think might need this and also subscribe so you don't miss out on new episodes. All right. So yes, Vinod, thank you so much for this amazing episode and
Th-
do
th-
have a
thank,
wonderful day. All
thank you,
right.
Sekani. It was my pleasure. Bye bye.
All right. Bye.